This is Deckerville. Some people call it Decrepitville. Small resort town up in the mountains. The town's claim to fame is a spring-fed lake. Rich people came up here in the 20s to get away from the summer heat. Then the railroad came through and the town grew. The Vanderworths owned the railroad and built the Vanderworth Hotel and Spa. The mineral springs will cure you of your ills and bring happiness to your life. For many years the town thrived. There were plenty of jobs. Then the economy crashed. Name's Krenshaw. I'm a detective. Been in this business 34 years. I was born and raised here. Seen it at its best and at its worst. Nothing surprises me anymore. This is a story about Victoria Vanderworth. She's the last of the Vanderworth family. Lives in a mansion up on Mineral Hill. Reclusive. Never married. One night I was called to investigate a burglary. Someone broke in and stole her jewels. An elderly, frail lady opens the door. Mrs. Vanderworth? Yes. I'm Detective Krenshaw. Please come in, Detective. I understand you had a robbery. Oh, Detective, I am utterly distraught. A thief has broken into my home and stolen my jewels. I walked in on him. It's a miracle I wasn't killed. There is no place in this town safe from criminals these days. Slow down, Mrs. Vanderworth. Take a deep breath. Let's start at the beginning. Well, I was in bed, sound asleep. I was awakened by a noise coming from my sitting room, so I went to look. I turned on the light and saw a man rummaging through my jewelry case. I keep it hidden. I screamed and he ran out of the room. Describe him. He was short. He was wearing a hat and a dark coat. I couldn't see his face. His hat covered it. The coat did not fit him well. It was too big. He was wearing gloves. When I screamed, he dropped the jewelry box and ran. He was unsteady, almost tripped and fell. He ran down the stairs and out the back door. He dropped a glove. I checked my jewelry case. The jewels were gone. All gone. Diamonds, emeralds, rubies, a gold watch. Oh, Detective, these are precious family heirlooms. You must apprehend him. I'll do everything I can, Mrs. Vanderworth. Tell me about the help. I have a maid, Betsy Wilson. Just a maid? I had a cook and a butler, but I had to dismiss them. They were caught stealing. Betsy caught them. She is most loyal. I rely on her for everything. When was the last servant fired? As a matter of fact, just yesterday. Betsy caught the cook stealing the silverware. She denied it, but I didn't believe her. Where is Betsy now? She went home at 6. Where does she live? I'd like to talk with her. She lives at the Holton Arms Apartments in town. If you don't mind, Mrs. Vanderworth, I'd like to have a look around the house. Then I'll talk to Betsy. Certainly. At the Holton Arms Apartments. Betsy answers. I'm Detective Krenshaw, and this is Sergeant O'Hara. Are you Betsy Wilson? Yes. I'm working on a burglary case. Your employer was robbed tonight, Mrs. Vanderworth. Like to ask you a few questions. Oh, how terrible. Please come in, Detective. Of course I'll help any way I can. How long have you been working for Mrs. Vanderworth? About a year. What kind of work? Everything. Cooking, cleaning, assisting, running errands. How many servants when you started? 3, a maid, butler, and cook. And they all left? She fired them. They were unreliable. I'm the only servant left. I am deeply concerned for her welfare. She is such a sweet old lady, all alone in the world. Yes, and naive. Where were you tonight? Around 8 p.m. I was here in my apartment. Were you here all night? I spent some time with my boyfriend. What's his name? Ralph Iverson. Where does he live? Upstairs. He was drinking and became disorderly. I don't care for that kind of behavior, so I went home. How long have you known him? Only a few weeks. He recently got out of jail. I'm trying to help him get back into respectable society. How kind of you. I'd like to meet him. Well, he's probably in no condition to meet people. Let's go see. Betsy, would you mind if Sergeant O'Hara searches your apartment while we talk to your boyfriend? I don't mind. I have nothing to hide. They go up to Ralph's apartment. No answer. Maybe he's not home. Oh, he's home. I have a key. I enter the apartment and Ralph is asleep, drunk, slumped over a table. Ralph, wake up. A detective is here. He wants to talk to you. What? What's your name? Ralph. Ralph Iverson. Where were you tonight? Right here. Did you go out earlier? No, just sat here with Betsy. Then I fell asleep. What's this about? Burglary. At your girlfriend's employer. I don't know nothing about that. That your coat and hat? Yeah. They're wet. It's raining outside. How'd they get wet if you were at home? I don't know. Sure you don't. And your shoes are muddy. How'd they get muddy? It's a mystery. And what's this? The detective picks a glove up off the floor. A glove. Where's the other one? I don't know. It's not mine. I don't wear gloves. The detective pulls the other glove out of his pocket. Here it is. It was found at Mrs. Vanderworth's house tonight. The thief dropped it. What's that got to do with me? You're the thief. That's a lie. You're the only liar here. You're under arrest for burglary. Stand up. Sergeant O'Hara enters. No jewels in Miss Wilson's apartment, detective. They must be in here. Search the apartment. Here, put your hat and coat on, Ralph. We're taking you downtown. You want to confess right now before I take you to jail? Confess? Confess what? I didn't do nothing. Don't know nothing about no jewels. You got the wrong guy, detective. Cuff him, O'Hara. We're taking him in. You can go home, Miss Wilson. Thank you, detective. I'm so relieved he's been caught. Next day, Betsy's apartment. Betsy enters. Detective Krenshaw and Officer O'Hara are waiting. Oh, I'm surprised to see you here, detective. How did you get in? Your landlord let us in. Did you return the jewels to Mrs. Vanderworth? No, we couldn't find them in your boyfriend's apartment. He must have hidden them elsewhere. Possibly. How did he know there were jewels and where they were hidden? I don't know. He must have searched around. Maybe, but I doubt it. I think he knew exactly where those jewels were hidden. Because someone told him. You mean me? I would never betray Mrs. Vanderworth, and I'm not a criminal. Come clean. Someone had to tell him, and you're the only one who knew. I don't appreciate your accusations, detective. I'm an honest, law-abiding woman. You can either cooperate now, or I'll take you down to the station and lock you up for a few days until you decide to talk. Please don't lock me up, detective. I'll tell you everything I know. We were in his room. He was drinking. He became belligerent. Started asking questions about Mrs. Vanderworth, what kind of valuables she had. I said I didn't know. He threatened to beat me. He twisted my arm, so I had to tell him about her jewels. He demanded I steal them for him, but I refused. Mrs. Vanderworth has been very good to me. Then he said he'll do the job himself. He forced me to tell him where the jewels were hidden. Then he took my key and left. Why didn't you call the police? I wanted to call the police, but I was afraid. He said he'd kill me. Oh, detective, I'm so sorry. I had no choice. My life was threatened. You did the best you could, Betsy. You don't have to worry. He won't be bothering you where he's going. Oh, thank you. Why don't you take your coat off? I'd rather not, detective. It's cold in here. Thank you for coming, though. You got 3 suitcases here, Miss Wilson. Going somewhere? I'm going to visit my family. My nerves are shot. Looks like you're leaving for good. Just a week. Did you notify your landlord? Yes, this morning. I talked to him just now. He said you're moving out permanently. Oh, well, I'm changing apartments when I get back. I don't want Ralph to find me. You don't want anyone to find you. I don't know what you mean, detective. I think you do. You're holding out on me. I told you everything, detective. Now, if you don't mind, I need to rest. Mrs. Vanderworth said the burglar's coat was too big for him, as if a smaller person was wearing it. I don't understand. When we took him to jail last night, he put his coat on and it fit perfectly. Maybe he wore a different coat, detective. Let's stop playing games. You wanted those jewels, so you came up with a plan. You needed the servants out of the way, so you got them fired. You got your boyfriend drunk last night until he passed out. Then you put on his coat, hat, and shoes and went to Mrs. Vanderworth's house. You grabbed the jewels, but you needed Mrs. Vanderworth to see you, so she would say the burglar was a man. leaving you in the clear. You made a commotion. When she screamed, you ran, unsteady, pretending to be drunk. You dropped a glove. Then you came back here, entered Ralph's apartment. He was still passed out. You took off his coat, hat, and shoes, threw the other glove on the floor, and went back to your apartment to wait for the cops. Lies, all lies. I would never steal from Mrs. Vanderworth. I love her. She's a dear old lady. Maybe you loved her jewels more. I don't have them. You searched my apartment yesterday. Maybe you hid them in Mrs. Vanderworth's house yesterday, knowing we'd be here last night. Mind if I search your luggage? Certainly. Let me get the key to open them for you. Betsy suddenly runs to the door. She opens the door, but Officer O'Hara grabs her and pulls her back into the room. Let me go. I've done nothing wrong. Search her, O'Hara. She may have the jewels on her. Officer O'Hara searches her, pulls out a sack from under her coat, looks inside. Here they are, Detective. Give them back to me. You're not getting them back. You're under arrest for burglary. You'll be doing time for this. No, please, don't arrest me. I'll return them. Not a chance. Why'd you do it, Betsy? Mrs. Vanderworth treated you well, and this is how you repay her? Mrs. Vanderworth paid me very little, barely enough to survive. She was always barking orders at me and criticizing my work. Nothing I did was ever good enough. If I made a mistake, she docked my pay. It wasn't possible to live that way. Why didn't you find a better job, Betsy? There are no better jobs. They're all the same. I grew up poor, Detective. I never had enough to eat. No matter how hard I try, I can't get ahead. I figured I could sell the jewels and start a new life. I could find some happiness. Oh, let me go. You have the jewels. Please don't take me to jail. Haven't I suffered enough? I have to do my duty, Miss Wilson. All my life I did my duty, and look where it got me. Nowhere. Living hand to mouth. Working degrading jobs for low pay. I just want a chance to make a good life. You can work on making a better life after you serve your prison sentence. Cuff her, O'Hara. I'll take the jewels back to Mrs. Vanderworth. Well, Betsy got 2 years for the burglary. Maybe it wasn't fair, but she didn't serve her full sentence. She stole a prison janitor's uniform and escaped. Who knows where she is now? Living hand to mouth, no doubt. Still scheming to escape the cold and cruel prison of her life. Can't really blame her.